the Brown Boys, the Brown Boys, the Brown Boys, we the Brown Boys, the Brown Boys, we the Brown Boys. Now let's talk about this wretched slug that just made the whole world about to have to get the whole world of black people because of this one idiot black guy right here who stabbed a cute white girl on the train. I don't want to make this sound any less egregious than what it was, because somebody lost their life and nobody even tried to help this lady. We living in a society to where we so desensitized to crime that we either gonna pull out our phone or mind our business when somebody leaking out. Ladies, make sure you don't try not to go out by yourself no more. Cause boy, if you don't have no protection with you, these doggone people will watch you bleed to death and won't even call an ambulance. They'll rather film it than call the police. We live in a society that'll rather film it than get you help. We don't live in a society no more that watch you take a good beating. Even if you start the fight, they'll watch you take a good beat down. And at the time where you done had enough, there ain't no more fight in you. It ain't nobody that's gonna say, hey man, stop. That's enough. That's enough. Stop. They not gonna do that. They'll watch them beat you, unalive you, and then brag about it. And it'll be people justifying it over words.
Assistant FBI Director Chris Swiker, and let's pick it up where Pam Bondi left off. Do you think the feds will actually be able to establish jurisdiction in this case? Because I still think that's a little bit of an open question. And if so, if they are able to establish jurisdiction over a mass transit system, how far could the Trump administration go in going after mass transit crime in all of our cities?
Yeah, I mean, they did manage to sort of shoehorn a federal crime into this scenario, and I applaud them for that, because look, I live in Charlotte. I chaired the crime commission in North Carolina. I'm a former assistant DA. I see a broken system here in Charlotte, particularly when it comes to accountability in the area of prosecutions of all kinds of crimes. So, federal statutes have teeth. When you get sentenced, you'll do every single day of your sentence. It's stricter sentencing. It's more longer sentences in federal court, more competent prosecution in federal court. So I applaud that. They may have to wait in line for the local prosecution, but this ensures that none of those sort of blue state progressive soft on crime policies will come into play here. And I think after this incident, Charlotte's going to have to do some introspection and understand why their homicide rate has doubled since 2019.
Yeah, and Charlotte's mayor actually on that point scored a primary re-election victory yesterday amid all of this. So on a political note, something to point out there. And when it comes to the preventable nature of this, Chris, I mean, that's one of the most horrific things about this, is that this didn't need to happen because he could have been in jail at the time of this killing, but a judge decided to let him walk free. We had a Charlotte City Council member.
And here's where it gets tricky, because now that I got my brain back, because, yeah. But anyway, this is a tricky subject because the family, allegedly, of this man reported him as a danger. So his own mother reported him allegedly as a danger. So this brother should not have been on the street. He should have already been behind bars. But because they mentally evaluate you and then they turn you loose. And then if a person don't want to be there, they don't have to stay there. So there's a lot of people that have family members that you might commit them. You might want them to get help. But if they don't want to stay there, they don't have to stay there. And it's a lot of dangerous people that's walking the streets that probably should not be walking the streets. But they, this is a gray area that they got to, I think, figure something out with. Because the only time they're going to do something about it really is when they unalive someone. But this dude gonna get, there's two things that just happened that's gonna get new laws put in place. They're gonna put some way stricter laws on younger people. They're gonna, cause they got a loophole that people are taking advantage of with these young folks, and now they got data that back it up. And once the powers that be get the data that they need, and once they see you taking advantage of a loophole, then they come down with harsh punishment, boy. And they see that the data done show that the criminals are using these teenagers at like little missiles. So they're gonna come back with juvenile life. They're gonna come back with locking these kids up to a certain age. Watch. And it's gonna be bad on some of these this upcoming generation of YNs. It's gonna be bad on them because they finna come down with that hammer, that Thor hammer coming down. And they finna come down on that Thor hammer with crime alone. Cashless bails, that's gonna go away. Because it sounds good in theory. You know, somebody get in trouble. If you're a law-abiding citizen, you get in trouble. I think it's stupid that you gotta wait and you gotta try to hurry up and sit in jail for 2 years until you figure out if you did it or not. Then if you didn't do it, you just get let go. What about the last 2 years of your life? What about your wife done probably been with your friend? You know what I mean? What about all the things you miss out on? So it makes sense to have no cashless bails for law-abiding citizens who make a mistake or two. But you can't even do that now because people will mess up a good thing.
It's all based off each individual case. And in the case of Mr. Brown, our understanding was that it was on a very minor infraction that they were trying to obviously get him and seek more help. So each one is situation by situation. No judge anywhere is going to ever think that they're going to release somebody like this.
Yeah, so what he's saying there is a judge decided to let him go with a written promise to attend his trial at a later date because he was being held at the time on a relatively minor charge without failing to look at the totality of his criminal record. So how about that, Chris? What about changing that and ensuring judges look at the whole criminal record before letting somebody go?
Yeah, it seems so obvious. You know, you shouldn't have to codify it in a law that you have to look at the 14 offenses that this guy had been involved in. He was a career criminal. And look, I think everybody's getting tired of this deer in the headlights attitude when there are mental health issues involved. This is not the first time this guy's committed violent crimes, and there are throughout his previous incidents, his own mother, his own attorney begged the court system to put him into a mental health program, to get him evaluated, to get him into, in a situation where he was incarcerated while receiving mental health, care, and not be a danger to the public on a transit system like this. I mean, this is not the first time somebody has come up behind a passenger in this particular transit system and stabbed them. This has happened before. I just watched the video of it. So, the shame on the whole system here. As you mentioned, Carly, this was entirely a preventable incident. This metro rail system, this light rail system, as the U.S. attorney said yesterday, is a rolling homeless shelter. And you have to have your head on a swivel when you get on this light rail system. I have 3 daughters. I would never let them ride this metro rail system here in Charlotte.
Chris, on the judge, quickly, all 10 GOP House members from North Carolina signed a letter pushing for removal of this magistrate judge who released the suspected killer like you just discussed. How tough will it be to kick her off the bench?
Yeah, I think it'll be pretty tough. I mean, clearly she's incompetent, and I think she has some business interests in rehab, some sort of rehab facility, which I wonder if it isn't a conflict of interest there. So I think I think that they report her to judicial standards in North Carolina, at least there'll be an investigation and they can reveal what's going on here, because magistrates they're the first line of defense, if you will, in the judicial system. They're the ones that set bond. They see these people when they're first brought in. They make the decision as to whether they're going to go right back out on the street again. And too often, that's exactly the case. They're right back out on the street. The DA's office shares some responsibility because they are clearly have established these soft on crime policies, no cash bail, no prosecution of drug offenses, minimal prosecution of misdemeanors and low-level felonies. And that's the breeder ground for career criminals. If you don't get them in the system and get the worst of the worst incarcerated, crime is just going to go through the roof, which it has.
Yeah.
And it's irrefutable that once you get police officers on the street and do aggressive prosecutions, crime will go down.
When somebody tells you who they are, you believe them. And this guy told us who he was 14 times over. Also, Chris, when it comes to crime, President Trump and several cabinet members went out to dinner last night in Washington, D.C. This is the first time the president went out to dinner in D.C. during his second term. And it comes, of course, amid his crime crackdown. So here's what the president had to say before heading into the restaurant.
We're going to be announcing another city that we're going to very shortly. We're working it out. We'll announce it probably tomorrow. And it's going to be something where we'll do like we did here. But this city, here I am standing out in the middle of the street. I wouldn't have done this 3 months ago, 4 months ago. I certainly wouldn't have done it a year ago. This was one of the most unsafe cities in the country. Now it's as safe as there is in the country.
So how important is it to see the president out on the streets of Washington, D.C.? And what do you think about that upcoming announcement of going into another city?
Yeah, I think it's a good. I mean, look, we remember the crack epidemic in the 90s, and those drug crimes led to just a complete crime wave across the country. Neighborhoods were destroyed. And Bill Bratton up in New York City, the commissioner of police, instituted this or implemented this accountability system that, where precincts were held accountable for driving crime rates down in their particular precinct. And that worked, and it spread across the country. And crime rates, which had spiked through the roof, went down. And the theory is aggressive, proactive policing and proactive prosecutions targeting the worst of the worst, getting them off the streets and incarcerated will drive crime rate down. Visible policing, proactive prosecutions. Now, I proved it when I was at Bank of America, when I was head of security there. If you put an armed guard outside a bank, it didn't get robbed. They might rob some other bank, but we were trying to step up the security around us, and it's proven. It's a deterrent.
Yeah.
And then if something bad does happen, you immediately prosecute it like they're doing in D.C. through the federal court system, not the local court system.
Broken windows policing. If you target the small crimes, the big ones don't happen. It just makes so much sense. Chris Wecker, thank you for joining us this morning. It's great to see you. We appreciate it.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brad.
But yeah, man, it's going to be some strict laws now that people are that sensitive. Two things just happened. You done killed unalive attractive white woman, which what they do when you unalive a white woman, especially an attractive one, out of nowhere. Then somebody done unalive Charlie Kirk, and then it started off with them beating up Big Balls, Paul. So that's 3 white people in a row that just got unalive. And you add somebody as visible as Charlie Kirk, boy, look at here. It's going to be some laws and rules and laws and rules and laws and rules, boy. Because they done made people too sensitive. You can't just move on. You can't just say, you know what? I don't agree with you. I'm not going to consume whatever you put out, and I'm going to move on. We got everybody now got to continue telling people what they like and don't like. So that's terrible. That is terrible.